In the words of my favorite philosophers, let's real talk for a moment. Cease and desist orders suck. They have created rifts in this fandom, they have slowed projects and outright stopped others. A lot of the time, they are just basically businesses bullying content creators, and we've seen firsthand what happens with them. The gloves are off, folks. Let's talk about the button mash cease and desist. Now, I would like to introduce my guest for this session of Off the Cuff.
Thank you for having me. Always nice to see a new face on the analysis scene.
And thank you for joining me. Anyway, I think that enough time has passed, so now we can make a video about this. I watched your rant on the button mash cease and desist, and I feel that there's a little more that we should add for the sake of the conversation. We have talked about your video beforehand, and my distaste for it, so we'll just let bygones be bygones. For now, let's analyze, or whatever the hell we want to call this.
The cease and desist has been the talk of the fandom for a while now, to the point that even JanAnimations is still getting questions on his Tumblr about it. I'm willing to bet that he is sick of it by now, but classy as he is, he still keeps answering them and stays calm and polite. So for now, for us, go through JanAnimations' answers on his Tumblr about the cease and desist and see if your question was answered already. If not, check a few links that will be in the video's description. Now, let's just sit down, relax and talk about it.
I think we could both agree that we loved Button's adventures, and the other things that Jan has made. I would consider him to be the best animator in the fandom, at least when it comes to the Friendship is Magic style.
Yeah, pretty much. He also branched off and did different genres of animation, which is always a plus.
Exactly, he obviously has talent, and the cease and desist was a complete dick move. However, I feel that the anger that has come from the fandom is more or less overblown.
Something uncomfy happened in the fandom and everybody goes all drama queen about it? Imagine that!
No, seriously though. I'm usually on the fandom side when it comes to drama, but the utter poison that has been thrown at Hasbro for this move has been disgusting, and I'm not really a fan of it. Granted, this isn't as bad as the death threats because of Equestria Girls, but there is a limit. And not only that, but I feel that the hate is being projected at the wrong source.
Agreed. Hasbro is the source of the cease and desist. They did it. But have we ever taken a step back and wondered why this happened? Why, out of so many fan projects, Button Mash was given the cease and desist? We could understand why this happened to Fighting is Magic. They made a lot of money, unintentionally, with their game. But why Button Mash? Did one of their lawyers have a bad day?
I doubt it. We've all seen the order, but let's throw it up there just in case. Now, as you can see, the two things that are being brought up in the cease and desist are Title 15 and 17 of the United States Code. Title 15 has to do with copyright law, in this case the Friendship is Magic copyright, and Title 17 has to do with what is called false designations of origins. We aren't going to bore you with the technical details, but that basically means this thing isn't coming from the person who actually made it, so it's against the law. There is a really good article on trademarks that Roundstable did a while back during the cease and desist of MLP Online, and we'll link it in the description. Now let's look at the options that JanAnimations has.
A lot of people have been asking if JanAnimations is able to continue making Button Mash, but upload it secretly or on a separate account. Unfortunately, that is impossible. According to Jan on Tumblr, the cease and desist doesn't just apply to YouTube, it applies anywhere that he uploads the videos. So this is not an option. The other reason why he isn't taking this road is purely because his eyes are on his own future. Jan, according to him, wants to be a professional animator. If he were to continue animating this series, he would be blacklisted by Hasbro and possibly sued for not abiding the cease and desist.
Basically, if he continued, it would follow him into the future. Job offerings that could have been open for him would be closed due to his reputation, and not to mention the fact that Hasbro is a multi-million-dollar corporation with scary lawyers that could provide the best defense for Hasbro in court, so fighting the cease and desist is not worth it to him. The other problem is that according to fair use law, or at least what I've read of it, it does not apply to Button's adventures or the other videos that were taken down. We'll explain in a bit. Another question that we've noticed is why Hasbro doesn't just hire JanAnimations and have him animate for DHX. We call this the Valve suggestion.
Well, there's two reasons. One, Hasbro would not hire someone that has infringed their copyright because it sets a bad standard for the company. Even though it might not be the case, if they did that, it implies that all you have to do is break the law in order to get hired. That's not going to fly. 2. DHX does not, at least now, need more animators. And they have previously told us if they did. They sent news to Equestria Daily when they were open for animators. And while we won't say that they would do it again if new spots open up, I think we can bet that DHX is full of animators.
Now, some people have been wondering why the Let's Meet the Bronies and Don't Mind at Night videos were allowed to stay on Jan's YouTube. This is what we think. The only thing that JanAnimations is able to use as his defense is what we mentioned before, fair use. This is a part of copyright law that basically lets you use stuff that's copyrighted but for quote, positive reasons, such as education or parody. It's what keeps shows like The Colbert Report and Saturday Night Live afloat.
Now, the reason why Let's Meet the Bronies and Don't Mind at Night were allowed to stay is because according to fair use law, those two videos are examples of education and parody respectively. Fair use is judged on a 4-factor balancing test as shown here. The reason that Button Adventure did not make the cut is because of false designation of origins, as we said earlier. It basically looks like a one-shot episode of a background character, and because of that, fair use cannot be used as a defense. Now, while Picture Perfect Pony used a song that was not technically copyrighted by Hasbro, the extent of fair use would only protect the song, since it was originally sung by Mando Pony, and even the fair use defense on that is debatable. The animation, however, because it actually uses Photo Finish's voice, whether it's Ellie Monty is irrelevant, it sounds exactly like her voice, and a lot of the Friendship is Magic intellectual property does not pass. While we are not sure if Photo Finish's voice is trademarked, if you're arguing fair use, this doesn't help Jan's case.
But, Don't Mind at Night, while it does use Sweetie Belle and Button Mash, that video has more of a defense under fair use considering the song is a parody of a Katy Perry song, Sweetie Belle's voice is not being used, and Minecraft is part of the parody. The only thing that could be considered as a violation of the trademark is the FIM pony style and the characters. But much like how The Daily Show could make a picture like this and not get sued, the same goes for this music video. It's basically a parody in the FIM style that you could argue doesn't technically hurt anyone under the guise of trademark laws. The parody just happens to have MLP characters and the style. The same goes for Let's Meet the Bronies. While the entire video has MLP characters, staff, and the like, we're going to bet that the staff behind BronyCon documentary talked about the animation beforehand, both with Jan and Hasbro. Not to mention the animation is in a documentary that could be considered as, quote, educational under fair use law, so we're assuming that it gets a pass.
Last but not least, let's talk about why Hasbro is able to cease and desist this project. Like we said, Friday Gives Magic was understandable. It made money when it shouldn't have, but it also was affected by the false designation of origin and trademark problems. But why Button's Adventure? This video wasn't hurting anyone, at least to us. Unfortunately, the problem isn't with Hasbro, despite what the fandom believes. The problem is, as I said in the past, with copyright and trademark law. Again, we are not going to turn this into Law 101, so we are going to condense it. More or less, the point of copyright law is that the government allows someone to protect their ideas temporarily so that people have an incentive to create new ideas. For example, no one would try and make new ideas or inventions if someone else is just going to steal them as soon as they are finished.
A good example is Equestria Girls. Hasbro wanted to get into the Monster High business of toys, but because of copyright law, they couldn't just copy Monster High and call it a day. They had to make an actual intellectual property, and while I think Equestria Girls sucks, at least it's something. The problem comes down to how copyright laws are written. Now, the point of copyright law is not being abused when it comes to Hasbro owning the rights to Friendship is Magic. There's nothing wrong with that. They have the rights fair and square. But one of the problems is that the temporarily part that we talked about is becoming longer. The Copyright Term Extension Act, we'll put a link in the description, basically made the time frame of copyright after the death of the creator longer, from 75 to 95 years. This was one of the acts that back in its day was known as the Mickey Mouse Protection Act, since Disney lobbied a lot for it to pass, which it did.
The main problem is that copyright law is old. It hasn't been touched in forever. And when it is touched, extensions like the Mickey Mouse Protection Act are what's mainly discussed. So with the huge expansion of the internet and things like this fandom, the law is so broad, because there was less to regulate back then, that Hasbro is actually able to strike down animations like Button's Adventures. Another question is, do they have to strike down things like this? The answer is, unfortunately, yes. The way the copyright law is written, the government considers a copyright to be a privilege. So if Hasbro doesn't cease and desist this stuff and protect their copyright, they could rightly lose it. And with that, all the characters that were in those videos. And we know Hasbro isn't going to let that slide.
So yeah, that's the country we live in, at least in America. If fan material gets too big or makes money, it can be squashed so fast that even Phoenix Wright won't object. It really sucks, but that's the problem with poorly written copyright laws. When something's so broken, it's no wonder that it hurts those around it. And with that, I believe this episode of Off the Cuff is all wrapped up. A special thanks to A&Y Pony for partaking in it, and thank you for watching. I hope you got something from this. Make sure to like this video, leave a comment or question down below if you have any, and subscribe for more analysis videos. Also check out A&Y Pony if you already haven't for reviews, first impressions, reaction videos, and more. I'll see you next time.
Thanks again for having me. This is ANY Pony saying see you soon.